Hey, how's everybody doing today? Welcome to the next edition, if you will, of the Warrior Mindset Podcast. We're here today with a friend of mine. His name's Charles. I guess we go by Goldman.
Yes.
But most of the people don't even know the last name, like Doc Joe. Nobody even knows my last name.
Yeah.
But Charles, everybody calls him. He's one of the trainers in the gym here in Doc's gym. Does such a great job. Has been with me. I guess we've been about 6 months.
6 months.
About
now.
6 months.
Yeah.
And we'll go into some of his story on how he's gotten to where he is today. And one of the trainers that I highly respect. He does a great job with a lot of young kids along the way. And hence the term from that warrior mindset. You know, he brings that to the kids along the way. And man, he's got a great story that I'm really looking forward to everyone hearing. But like I do all the time, I want to shake your hand, man. And I want to thank you very much for, coming on board today, and just give people just a little bit of background on yourself, how you came to, come to Doc's gym, which is attached to this studio right here.
Yeah.
And just give the audience a little bit of background on yourself.
Well, yeah, I grew up in Dos Palos, California. My family migrated from Oklahoma for farming. So I grew up there. It was probably a family-oriented town, and sports was a major factor in my life, keeping me together and keeping me out of trouble. And
How old were you when you moved here?
When I moved to Fresno, I was 21 years old.
Oh, so you played ball back in Oklahoma?
Yes, I played in Dos Palos, actually.
Oh, Dos Palos, okay.
Yes, and so I moved here to go to Fresno City College, and I started playing here, and that's when I got my scholarship to Tuskegee University. But I used sports as a tool. I was a trouble kid getting in trouble. I chose that. I had a mom and dad in the home, but I just chose that path. But a lot of it was just dealing through pain and anger because I lost my grandparents, my grandmothers. That was everything to me.
How old were you when that happened?
I was 14 years old.
Oh, man, it's a big deal.
It's a big deal. And I didn't realize till I got older why I was so angry all the time and using that to fight and do things that I did. But who knows how to process losing somebody that you were with every day, your grandmother.
Right.
So I got in a lot of trouble and stuff, but I had people that stand in the gap for me, my teachers and stuff, always believing. And I had stories of teachers telling me I'm going to prison and all this stuff, but I had those teachers that I remember their name, Miss Easley and Miss Pinelli, to this day. They told me I'm going to be somebody and I'm going to change the world and help kids to help me. So by them to inspire me, I kept it going and doing football and always work with kids. I started working in a group home in 2004 after I left college.
Nice.
And
what'd you finish up school-wise?
Yeah, my bachelor's degree is in human services.
Oh, nice.
So I wanted to do that because I always wanted to do service in the community.
Yeah.
So during my degree, I had to go do internships and serving in communities, people with addiction, people that have PTSD that went to the war, everything. So I'm in the business of serving people. So I try to use my story to save people and keep them motivated.
And it's interesting because, as we're going to continue hearing your story, these are the reasons why I put this podcast together, because it's that warrior mindset, just in a small amount of that we're hearing right now with you, you're putting on this armor as a young guy, and there's people that are influencing you, in your life. So it's like, it's pretty cool, on how already at 14 years old, you lose your grandmothers, and then all of a sudden you're like, hey, listen, this is the way I want my life to go to help serve people.
Yeah. And you have to do that because as a kid, it's hard to process those things. And, in the African-American community, it was shunned to go on to go to counseling. It was
right.
they can consider that you're crazy if you go to counseling. But if you think about it, kids nowadays, mental health is such a interesting situation that I think I'm glad that people are knowledgeable and knowing that people can get help for mental health and go to therapy. That doesn't mean you're crazy. You just need some help.
It's interesting you say that, I'm in the healthcare field, as a sports chiropractor, exercise science undergrad and things like that, and the military background, as a former team guy, that you're totally right, where a lot of times people go within themselves. Yeah. They don't seek the help, and it seems like you at a young age were able to kind of see some of those things, and as you're getting older, you're trying to help people along the way. And one of the tracks, if you will, one is obviously, from some of the mental illness to get some sort of therapy, but research is showing, now you're in the field too, I'm the doctor with that, exercise science type of background as a chiropractor, is exercise.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Exercise is shown from a mental health point of view to do wonders along with some counseling.
Yeah.
You yourself, obviously you have the undergraduate education, in human services and, working with kids. How have you found, just first of all with yourself, that the mental aspect is that body armor for you from a fitness point of view?
I think from a fitness, I'm not in the best shape that I want to be, but I'm conscious of the health. Your health is a part of your mental. You can't function in the world if you're not feeling good,
right,
and you're not eating right and doing the proper things. So I can tell the difference when I'm eating bad or I'm not working out or I'm not walking. Your body doesn't feel the same, and it's like it rejuvenates your body anyway when you're constantly moving. It doesn't have to be in your hair lifting weights. It doesn't have to be any of that. Even if you're taking a walk, if you're walking through the grocery store, it's just about moving around and not being still. You know, it helps you and it's beneficial to your thinking. You don't realize that the conditioning your brain also require you being in good health. If you're in pain all the time, how can your mind think clear?
Exactly. And also too is, so for example, I know I got you by a couple of years.
Yeah.
So things were a little bit different when I was in school. I grew up in New York,
Yeah.
right outside New York City. My parents were from the Bronx, and but they had a little bit of property. So as a kid, when I was growing up, we didn't have a lot of the things that these kids have now with the phones and the computers and the the iPads and the games and all this type of stuff. So you're out running around. Your parents will tell you, "Hey, listen, get out of the house. Don't come back until it's dark."
Yeah.
You're a little bit younger than I am, and you still didn't have that. And you grew up in Oklahoma, probably had out all the time.
Well, most of my time I grew up in Dawes Palace, California.
Oh, most of it was out there.
But my family brought the country. It was still a country town.
Check.
So the same thing you're talking about, we didn't have those things. So we ran in fields in the train for football or even just playing around. We made things happen with what we had.
So now with that, you did that as a kid, then you went to college. Now you're coaching kids. Like in my facility here, I mean, the guy has, dozens of kids coming in and out of here, I think really teaching these guys, a whole new thing as opposed to all this, computer games and all this type of stuff. Do you see some of the kids a little bit different than when you were younger?
Yeah, they are. Be honest, working in this field and even having my own travel football team where I take kids around California and show them things, I'm seeing a lot of moms. There's not a lot of fathers around. You see in the gym, I'm luckily here, there's a lot of dad. If you look at it, there's a lot of moms bringing the kids and maybe the dads work. I don't want to stereotype that, but these kids have more challenges than we had. They have to worry about things like fentanyl. They have to worry about drugs and cigarettes being offered to them all the way into the 7th and 6th grade. And one of the main problems today is that kids are being sexually active at a more higher rate. Yeah. 9 years old, 10 years old, that would be unheard of in our age.
Right.
So we had people that did things like that, but it was probably 15, 16 years old. So now today these kids have more challenges. Just think about what we just talked about, tablets and iPads. They have access to all this stuff on their phone, and they're constantly looking at iPads. They don't even have to read anymore. They have spell check. So you have kids some of my kids struggle with spelling and stuff at school because the computer just spells for them.
Right.
We had to get a dictionary out when we were in school. I'm not saying technology is not good. I'm all for technology.
Oh, of course.
But sometimes kids need to just growing up in Dawes Palace and figuring it out. Mm-hmm. My mom didn't buy me a basketball court. I went and put a bike rim on the tree.
Yeah.
I put a clothes hanger in my room and put it in the door and closed it and shot with a tape ball. You make it happen, and I'm glad technology is better, but it made me who I am today to learn how to survive.
Well, I think what you're doing too is you're still because when I see you in the gym working with these kids, I always got my eye on all my trainers, seeing what's going on. And one of the things that's a positive thing that I can see that you're doing for these young kids is you build that camaraderie, you build that teamwork. Everybody's working as a team. Some days the voice will raise, and I'm like, all right, good. I like to see that. He's like, he's getting these guys squared away. And I know you and I were raised with raised voices. And then all of a sudden you're kind of standing to attention. You're like, was that me? Was that, And then you kind of like, it's almost like we were rebooted just with verbal.
Verbal, yeah.
You know what I mean? As opposed to, you get rebooted in the back of the head sometimes, which I probably deserved many times in my life.
Too.
But with these kids that I see with the way you're working with them, which is, hats off to you, is you have a tone of voice that is very loving. You have a tone of voice at times which is very in concern that because the guys aren't keeping and the gals aren't keeping squared away. Like what is it that you feel you bring to the table when you're with these kids that some of these other, trainers don't bring with the kid?
But that's why I just had the conversation. There's a lot of trainers in Fresno. Everybody's good. You can go on YouTube and find out how to train somebody.
Yeah.
My main attribute is I find the best whatever is inside that kid, and it's my job to bring it out. I'm the motivator. They don't realize that they're doing the work themselves. I can't take credit. I just got to find the best them that's inside of them. So sometimes you have to be stern, but you got to give them love after. See, a lot of people yell at kids and do all this mean stuff, but do you love them after?
Right.
And all these kids want is somebody to believe in them and love them. So most of my kids that I work with, they know I really love them. I mean, I'll give you an example. I had one of the kids call me one day and say, Coach, I'm ready for my All-Star game. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here. I love you. This is at 10 o'clock at night.
Nice.
So imagine a kid thinking about you at that time because you impacted his life. There's a lot of trainers that do it for just the money. But I have kids that call me about problems they're having with their mom and dad. They'll call me in the middle of the night like mom and dad's arguing. Your job is more than a trainer when you're dealing with kids.
Well, it's funny, you know, and also too is with that, you help out these kids, and between you and me, with the facility we have here, we make it so there's nobody that can't afford being in here.
Yeah, we don't turn any kids away.
No, and it's great because it's growing for you, which is great. I see these kids, you know, just loving on you, loving on each other. They're as we used to term back when you're younger, grab assing and having fun and giving each other a hard time. But you also have a lot of the older kids in there, and that's where we have this podcast is that warrior mindset, and you're training these kids. Besides the conditioning for the actual sport, I feel little by little you're putting a little bit of armor on each one of these kids along the way, and their mindset is building. You got a couple big guys that are in here training high school kids and things like that. But you're also mixing them in with the young kids.
On purpose.
That's what I like to see.
That's intentional.
And why is that?
Because they need somebody to show that. How are you going to know where to work for if you don't see what the top looks like?
There you go.
One of the kids we train in there, Marion Gaines, is the top running back at Fresno City. They don't even know that. But he's in there grinding with them. He's in there sweating with them.
And this kid's what? What's he, like 10?
They're 10 years
10-year-old
old,
kids?
and they're in here with a college kid.
Yeah.
So now if you see the group we had, those are all those kids that have been coming, those 6 guys, those are all college kids that I knew when they were their age. So they don't know that I'm setting them up to tell their story, how they were when they were 10 years old.
And you're building their mindset. You're building those kids' mindset to then perpetuate down the road as they get older to be people like you and I.
But what I like about these youths, if you build to them and they have good motivation, they all try to keep up with those older guys. That's the key. They're all trying to jump over that big box. They're all trying to get in line with him. They're all trying to run it faster than him. So there's no ceiling to how high they can go because they see positive. That's the key. They see positive people.
And it's funny, you say, for example, you go into, and I love the podcast we have, and I love the name because I love to throw in those things as far as that warrior mindset. And anytime you develop somebody else in the future, you need a mentor. So these guys are automatically being mentors, whether they know it or not.
They don't know it or not.
To these young kids because they're looking uphill.
Yeah,
they're
they
going,
are.
man, I want to be like this guy. You know, it's like that cliche with, I want to be like Mike.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And these guys are looking at your college guys.
Yeah.
And the college guys don't even know it.
They don't.
You know?
Like some of the kids that we have, I have kids that are in college at Cal University, Cal Poly. That's the best gift you can have as a coach when they're 10 years old and then you go to college and you're watching their game. They made it to they're going. Some might not make it to that level.
Oh, yeah.
But I run into my kids that are the managers at Walmart, that are manager at Foot Locker. They're doing something positive, and know that you had a piece to impact their life is better than anything you can do to be able to try to change the world. I have a slogan at the gym that I tell the kids when I pray for them in the gym and tell them, and I'm not forcing religion on anybody, but you have to put some kind of thing on it. I'll tell them to protect their ear gates and their eye gates from any evil. That's important. These kids have to deal with a lot of evil.
Yeah.
So, and then I tell them that they're a chosen generation to change the world. It don't get no better than that. They are the chosen generation, this young kid, to change the world.
Right.
That's a great slogan for them to believe, and now they're believing it, that they want to be doctors and officers and go to the Navy and change the world. But we forget that with your warrior mentality that you're promoting. That warrior mentality is a warrior can be anything, the nurse. It can be the doctor. It can be the anybody. It can be the person working at Walmart. Nobody's too small or too big to be in this warrior mentality.
Right.
We all are fighting some battle.
And that's great point, because we in this podcast concept is trying to bring people on like you and me. Okay, I was in the military. I was very fortunate to be in the special forces.
Yeah.
I mean, you played college ball. You know what I mean? And which I never got close to that. But as we're building that, it's like a brick and mortar with a new changing of society, as and you and I, are basically the mortar. And each kid that we bring in here is another piece of brick, another piece, and we're building, like you said, that's a really, really, I like that analogy. You're building a new society, and hopefully these young kids will make a change, in the future towards the better, because we're having some tough times now going on in this world.
We are.
You
I believe the youth is being attacked because they know that they can change the world. These kids are more advanced. They're learning faster. They have technology, so they're more advanced. So the world's going to change because they're more advanced for the good. So they attack this young youth to try to, the music pollutes them. A lot of things pollute. I'm not perfect either. I listen to music, but if you listen to the music nowadays, it promotes killing and dying and all this stuff. And then they have this kind of music that make kids depressed.
Right.
Our kids are being attacked on every level. You're seeing suicide rates rise. That's the warrior mentality. People are battling their kids having suicide at 10 because they're being bullied at school.
Right. And that's why I think the gym, and that goes back to science, man. The exercise, the endorphin release, that positive motivation that you get when you do exercise. And I think the more we get people into that, and then you alluded to the fact earlier in this conversation, about food. And this is what I do all the time. If you're not putting the right fuel in a race car, the race car is not going to run right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're not, checking the alignment, of the car's not going to go around the track properly. So what you're doing with these kids is you're making the next Indy car. You're talking about nutrition. You're making these new warriors, talking about exercise. Yeah. And we hope that you and I, with even in the podcast with these warrior mindset concepts, we're hopefully changing people's thought patterns little by little.
But a little bit of it too is when you're dealing with the warrior mentality that you're mentioning about, we don't know what people's warrior mentality, the fights that they're fighting, because some people want to hide it. So I'll give an example. And it's a little personal, but I want people to hear it that listen to your podcast. Yeah. That's what podcasts are for. You don't know who you're going to touch and who you're going to reach. So growing up in high school, on top of my grandmother passing, nobody knew because my dad worked for the city, and he don't mind me sharing this because it's his testimony. Everybody thought my life was perfect because my mom worked at the school and my dad worked for the city. But they didn't know at the time, after my dad's mother died, he got on drugs.
Right.
And did crack cocaine. So I lived with a functioning crack addict in my house. So part of my anger going to school fighting and doing all this stuff was because my dad was arguing with my mom at night every night. But I used tools and teachers and coaches to use me to get through that time, living through pain. But I was scared to tell people that I'm living with a functioning crack addict in my house, but he's going to work every day.
Right.
And I lost my house. I lost all this stuff, and nobody knows the pain of that. So, but at the same time, God, or I don't want to force religion, but the higher, God or the higher power, whoever you believe in, sends people to you to bless your life. Those teachers, those coaches, and even now today, my motivation is my kids. My wife is my major supporter. She keeps me in line. So we get caught up in this coaching or what we do in life in the warrior mentality. The real warriors are the people that hold you up.
Oh, yeah.
We forget the coach needs to be held up. So a lot of that comes from my wife to accept me, even let me come train or let me go out and serve these kids. She believe in it too. So you need to be interacting with people that have the same heart as you.
Yeah.
That's how I met you at the gym.
Yeah. I mean, that's great to hear, because everybody has, that story. And if we get these stories out, like in these type of podcasts, and we find out all these warriors that we have out there, and we bring these people together to where somebody goes, wow, you know what? I think I am I have that warrior mindset. I think I can pull myself out. Because what happens is when we do these type of podcasts, we ask the question. In your case, you kind of already gave me the answer, but I'm now going to ask the question: is, did you ever feel that you hit that quicksand in your life, and all of a sudden you're drowning? And if I'm correct, your teachers were the guys that threw you the rope.
Yeah, teachers and
like who are the people that you could say were big influence when? Man, you thought you were going down. Your grandmother passes away.
The major one was my mom. She never gave up on me.
See, that's awesome.
Even when I was being bad and doing things, my mom just always said, you're going to be all right, and never gave up on me. But it was almost like teachers and coaches and everybody did that, but they always sent the right person, like that right coach, the right person in the neighborhood to help me out. But at the same time, it comes a time in your life where other people can't help you. Mm-hmm. I left Tuskegee University because I had my daughter. I made a choice. I made her. People say I could have went to the NFL because I was a big guy running the 4.9 40, playing point guard, all this stuff. But I chose to be a man and raise my kid. And I wouldn't turn that around for anything in the world. But at the same time, that taught me that was my rock bottom, because I realized that a lot of people were just in it for me to see if I'll make it. So when I had to hit that rock bottom and just be at home and everybody turned their back on me, I had to find out who Charles Goldman really is.
And also, too, is people use the term rock bottom. And when we talk to different people, over these podcasts, we've given the example and people have agreed on this. Rock bottom is not always a bad place to be.
It's not.
Because guess what? There's nowhere else to go now. Now it's to go up.
You find yourself.
Mm-hmm. And we use a term too. Sometimes it's a crossroad, right? So you get that crossroad. You got a fork in the road. You can only go right, or you can only go left.
You only can go left.
So when you're in that point right there, when you're in college career, you had your daughter.
Yeah.
So you had to go either left or right.
Yeah.
You went right to leave school, but guess what? You manned up. You put that armor on. You got your mindset together, and and you got a beautiful daughter, 18 now, right?
Yes.
18 years old.
Yeah.
But you took that road. You can't go back anymore.
No.
But once you went forward, man, look at what your life's been for you right now. I mean, it's amazing. What you're doing for these young kids, and you got your more kids, in your life that you have, and that was a good path for you.
Yeah.
At the time.
But it's also these kids don't realize when you're in this business, doing this training, just like you in the gym. I see you change so many people's life and changing it around here. And it's contagious. You can't be in this gym in the warrior mentality and then don't be contagious. You don't feel like working out. Even me being out of shape that I am right now, it forces me to want to hit the bag now and train and eat better. I got my family trying to eat better and cut out on fast food majority of the time. You can't be around good things and it don't be contagious unless you don't want it at all.
Well, I think that's why I'm putting this podcast together because, and like I said, this is beginning stages of, of a lot of my guests. And you're one of the guys that I thought of right away because I just see what good work you're doing. And, if we can make a change, whether it's people listening to the podcast or, eventually at the end of this, we'll get some of your information and people even to ask you questions. They may not be here in the Central Valley, Fresno, whatever, but, to work with you. But your mindset can change people's lives. You already had one gentleman, 9:30, 10 o'clock? Like, what high school kid is going to talk to their coach?
He wasn't in high school. He was 10 years old.
10 years old. To just have the mentality to go, hey, listen, I need to tell my coach that I love him.
And he don't know at the time. This is another thing I want to make a point. When you serving kids, they don't realize they're saving your life. They keep me alive.
Yeah.
On days I don't feel like pushing through and I have my own personal going and I don't feel like coming to train, I come here and see their face. They're battling every day because I'm working on their mental. Mm-hmm. So that's another thing. We work in mental.
That's why it's a mindset.
When they feel like quit doing math, that's our warrior mentality. Mm-hmm. I don't feel like doing my test today. They're going to say, what would Coach C think?
Yeah.
Whoa.
And you know what it does? It makes you accountable too. We've talked about before we got on the show here. We were talking freely outside, and you were talking to me about myself working out and staying in good shape, and it was definitely a compliment. And I appreciate it. But what I do now is, and you're doing the same thing with your kids, is I'm in the gym all the time. Because if I own a gym and I have the experience in the military background that I did, it really wouldn't be, in my personal opinion, for me to be sitting in my office all day long and owning a gym and not trying to stay in shape. I want people to follow me. Yeah. Man, if Doc's this age and Doc can do this, man, I want to do that too. Hey, if coach is, helping me out and the coach is doing good for me, I want to show the coach how proud, make him really proud of me by the way he or she, because you got guys and girls in here working out, that I want the coach to be proud of me. So they're looking up to people like us all the time. You know what I mean? Yeah,
but that's the way you don't realize who's watching. One of the kids that I used to work with, one of the kids that work out in here now was training at another place with the kid that I used to train also. He told the kid that you're my role model and I've been watching you for 6 years. And this kid didn't know the impact. He started crying in tears. We never know who's watching, who you're a superstar to.
Yeah.
I have a nephew that I call my nephew. I met him when he was in the 6th grade, and we became close with our families. He called me his uncle. He's playing at Cal Berkeley right now. And he didn't realize what kind of superstar he was. We went to his spring game last year, and all these people were asking for his autograph. But he's humble. He didn't know he was a superstar. But that's a good thing to know. You can be humble enough to know even when you're a superstar to stay rooted with the people. We can never be so high or so low to feel like we're higher than anybody. In this gym right here, there's people that are officers, there's ex-military, but everybody feels warm here and everybody has their own battle and the warrior mentality is we're all here to motivate and lift up. I haven't seen any negative attitudes in here. I see people helping each other. It's a good environment.
Yeah, we're blessed. We're definitely blessed in here. And I think it's that, that foundation that, and the mindset that I've had over the years of trying to put a facility like this together, from the military background and the education and all that type of thing to where, you wanted a place where, it's kind of like that old TV shows, in the 90s, Cheers.
Yeah, Cheers.
You know what I mean? Where everybody come in, everybody knows everybody's name. Where we got a lot of these gyms are out there, Globo Gym and things like that. And there's nothing wrong with them and things like that. But this place, I wanted to be kind of like it was a home.
Yeah.
That kind of dungeon-esque type of gym.
Yeah.
And people come in. That's why, I don't even know it's on tape. I don't even know. I can't remember. How did you find out about our place?
I hate to keep bringing religion into it.
No.
I was praying and I said, God, guide me to the right place. And I looked at all these gyms. I heard of you before, but it wasn't really like that. And I looked and your name just kept popping up, Doc's Gym, Doc's Gym. I was actually scared to call. I was like, I don't know who this is, but why God, you keep showing me this Doc's Gym, this Doc's Gym, this Doc's Gym. So I went online, looked at the picture, and I called you that day. That was my first time ever it was that day that I seen it online. It kept just coming. Every time I looked for another gym, yours just kept coming at the top, and it kept coming in my feed. So I said, you know what? Let me call them. So I believe everything is divine and organized the right way. And to be honest, you don't have to have a mega gym. And people think they want the big gym that has all these square feet and all this stuff. Would you rather have an intimate relationship? Me and you have talks outside of the gym just on everyday life. Mm-hmm. Or you tell me a couple things and I'll talk to you on our way out. There's never a dull moment. There's somebody in here that we always have a conversation with.
Right.
And one thing we got to realize is for the bigger mission is that you're not just here for Doc's Gym either. There's kids I have that train at other facility, but the faithfulness here being at Doc's Gym is a branch everywhere.
Right.
Our light should shine, that who we are in Doc's Gym should shine everywhere. But we always going to say we come from Doc's Gym so they know that this is the kind of people that you represent and people, because you wear this on your back now when you say you train at Doc's Gym.
Yeah. And it's a warrior mentality. We're bringing that out to, with these young men and women, because of our backgrounds and things like that. And, I got the same faith type of background as you do too. And it's just, I always want to have a facility and be able to talk to people and bring people to a podcast because, man, I've been blessed to have been all around the world. I guess I've been on this earth long enough, but I've been all around the world. And I've met some crazy people along the way that just the conversations that we're having right now, just this easy conversation, we may be able to, make a little bit of a difference in somebody's life. And that's what that mentality, that warrior mindset that I want people on this other side of a desk or a couch or whatever the case may be, to kind of educate people on, man, there's some crazy people out here that got some great ideas and can do great things, and maybe we will change, the path of this world.
Yeah. But I think it's possible. It's just nowadays, it's just people are too competitive with who's the best and who's not the best and who has the best gym and who has this. It's supposed to be a life-changing center. Mm-hmm. All different paths of life. Nobody's the best.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great gyms in Fresno. There's a lot of great trainers in Fresno. We don't all have to hate each other. I have kids that train with other people, other trainers, other coaches. If you really care about the people that you're training, you want them to get the best, whatever they think they need. Now, these guys that say Doc's Gym is not the best, he does this, that's not the key.
No,
the key is, would you rather be a place that can change people's life and you feel at home, or you going to go to the gym where nobody even knows your name?
Right. Somebody's, sitting in front of a piece of equipment on the cell phone or text message or selfie, whatever. Yeah. Things like that. We definitely don't do that here.
But I mean, like, for instance, my daughter have left jackets here, bottles here. I'm not making it seem like you're perfect or your gym's perfect, but I come here and the bottle's still here and the jacket's here. I've been at gyms where everything could be gone.
Right.
And I had people before I trained here, John Fortenberry, and people that gave me opportunity that were great to me. So it's not, I learned over the way how to be, but God wanted me here at this point, at this time, in a facility that's where people have the warrior mentality. I've met so many people in this gym that has a different walk in life, but they're all battling and they're warriors in their own way. I met officers. I met Navy SEALs. I met Army. I met people that have every struggle. I just had surgery. This person was in a car accident and is back trying to get their life together. So it's great that you start this podcast with the warrior mentality, because that warrior mentality can go to anything.
Yeah. And that's where that anything there's a list of people. Ironically, we're at 6, 7, 8, tapings so far. And the funny part about it, you and I were talking this off camera before, is like, I got people calling me up. They go, Doc, man, I want to tell my story on your podcast. I got that warrior within myself. I got that mentality. I just want to tell people. And they're same thing. They're housewives. They're soccer moms. They're, supervisors for, city council and school boards and police officers and firefighters and whatnot. So I think, as we keep going along with this podcast concept, I think people are going to see some really interesting people that are doing some really good things in this world right now. In your case, a lot of it's with the kids.
Yeah.
And other people can be, for whatever, you know.
I think my heart is with the kids because that was valuable to me to have people positive in my life. It's just God keep sending me to kids. They need us, man.
And how do you think that happened? I mean, obviously, you and I got, some good faith that we have a great foundation in our own lives. What made you work for the kids? Do you think it was the degree or was it because of something that hit your life?
I think God put it in me because I know how valuable it was as a kid for me to have
the influence.
I was always had, my aunt was to pick me up and take me to get chocolate. My other aunt would buy me shoes. I was always blessed with people pouring into my life.
Right.
So you didn't know how important it really is for a kid to just pour into us, not even with gifts, just love.
Yeah.
We forget that word sometimes, the love part of things. People think it's the finances, the shoes, the clothes, the going to the movies. That's all good and it makes kids happy. But ultimately what they really want to feel like is that there's somebody. Because I'm a teacher also with autism kid behavioral. And I taught and I worked in schools. Kids are being bullied at an all-time high, all based on the Jordans, the shoes, the iPods, not having the Louis Vuitton belts, not having all this stuff. See, back when we were in school, it was unheard of for people to talk about your clothes that much. So these kids not only have that mental, they have to live up to this standard that the world has taught them that they have to be at this young age. You got kids wearing $250 shoes at 10 and 9 years old. So what about the kid that can't afford that?
Right.
They're talking about them at school. They're teasing them. So you never know what a kid needs from you to just motivate them, let them know there's somebody. My own self had to tell my daughter today, you're beautiful. You don't need makeup. You don't need, if you choose to wear it, but you're beautiful. Sometimes we got to tell people that there's somebody and just give them some little motivation.
And what you're doing is you're also giving them that little warrior within themselves. You know what I mean? Yeah. So as you're talking right now and you're giving these little ideas, whether you tell your daughter, whether you tell your kids you love them, whether you're educating the kids at school along the way to, hey man, you can do this, and they're just throwing on that little shoulder pad, they're throwing on that little chest armor. Yeah. So you're building them to be those little warriors to be able to protect themselves, and just be that man or woman in the future to kind of forge through on their own.
But even the warrior mentality, I think it was passed down because during that time, my mom went through a lot with my dad and just dealing with life. She still kept that warrior mentality to keep us together.
Yeah.
Then my dad quit doing drugs on his own with no drug program. Just God came and told him, hey, if you don't stop today, it's going to happen. But look how God works. We're never too late to grow either.
No.
So my dad came to my house yesterday. Me and my dad have a great relationship now, because he realized he felt like he wasted years of my life when he was doing that. He didn't waste, he still gave me love, but it taught me how to adapt to things. And I'm still a work in progress. But at the same time, it's like, he was the warrior to show me what he can do. He fought and battled drug addiction without a program.
Right.
That's a warrior mentality. My mom dealt with that and still fed us and kept the love in the house. That's a warrior mentality. When I'm out training and I'm out going out of town, my wife is the warrior who drops the kids off. We all have that mindset to be a warrior in different capacities, but it's the same slogan. We're all warriors. We're all fighting a fight. What's your fight?
Yeah, that's it. And each individual has to, be able to sit down with themselves, whether it's in their own room at the end of the night and go, okay, where am I at? Where are my battles? Because you got to pick them. You can't be picking them all because what's going to happen is you're never going to do anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you pick that one battle, or guys like yourself or like myself that are trying to mentor people along the way to be able to get them to get on that line to say, okay, listen, I got to make a start. I got to be that have that mentality, that mental mentality to start. I want to do one step at a time because each fight starts with one step forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But it's like to realize there's no ceiling to being a work in progress, though. Everybody think there's a certain limit that you have to be, and then that's it. You made it. No, you're constant. My dad just told me last night, I'm proud of you, but I'm glad that me and you have a good. And he apologized to me and told me that he's sorry for putting me through that. Look how old we are now.
Yeah.
But I needed that. You see what I'm saying? So it's like you never know what the ceiling is. You work here in the gym. You've been in places where you put your life on the line for our country. And that shouts out to all the military. We forget sometimes that they keep us safe.
Yeah.
I was in Little Caesars the other day with my 2 little daughters, and there was a military guy in his suit. And he almost cried in tears because I said, thanks, sir, for serving us and keeping us safe. We forgetting that warrior mentality. The real warriors that are keeping our country safe, they walk here and they come back. They have PTSD and they're struggling to interact with the world. And we think that they owe us, we owe them something. I mean, that they owe us.
Right.
We owe them at least capacity to say, thank you for serving us. And so this warrior mentality, hopefully we get some of those soldiers and ex-people on this show to show people that there's so much value to keeping us safe. We forget sometimes that other countries been invaded.
Yep.
And we're not invaded because people like you and other people that saved our country, and nobody even tells them thanks.
Yeah.
They think it's just a fad to wear the shirt and wear the hat and just put a couple flags on somebody's grave. But at the same time, these people keep us safe and need to be sometimes just told. You're not looking for money or looking for a token. You just want to be told. And any service, a nurse, during COVID, those nurses were working 16 to 18 hours, and nobody even said thanks because they think they're getting a check. No, it's not a check. It's the service.
Right.
Everybody that's in service, whatever capacity it
Police
is.
department.
Police department. I mean,
department.
think about the police department right now.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you want to touch on it, but I'm an African-American man. They're attacking the police. There are some evil cops. They're evil doctors. They're evil everything. That's an evil person.
Right.
When I grew up, my dad told me, even if you think the officers are wrong, you comply. And I'm a big guy.
Yeah.
I never had a problem with the officer because I comply when they tell you to put your hands up. They tell me to get in the car. You get in the car and fight your fight later. Now, there are some cops that are using their power in the wrong way.
Oh, of course.
But imagine if we didn't have officers.
Yeah.
What would happen to the
chaos.
world? So officers put their life, I have family members that are officers. They put their life on the line every day. So I think the world needs to understand that the media and everybody promotes chaos to make us think that it's something that it's not. And I do not agree with any officer that kills or brutalizes anybody in a wrongful way. But all people are not wrong.
And also, too, is bad is bad. I don't care what you look like. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what you look like on the outside. Bad is bad. And, those type of people, don't deserve to be, free if they're doing bad things or whatever you look.
But there's bad people that work at you go to the Walmart and the lady's just rude.
Oh, yeah.
There's bad people that go, and don't get me wrong,
100%.
there are brutality to certain races different than other because that's how people were trained.
Yeah.
That's in certain areas. But I don't agree with that, but I agree with that we need police officers. Defunding the police. I work at a school where they're trying to take the officer off the campus. You know how many people would come to the school and shoot kids and have drugs on the campus if we didn't have officer and ex-military working at the school? So I think that officers should be commended, but the bad ones should be
taken
like
care anything else. Yeah.
But all officers are not bad, and I teach my kids to go to the officer. I remember as a kid, the officers used to give us a sticker and put on our shirt.
Oh, a little badge.
And what do we want to be?
Yeah.
Cops.
Yep.
We're not even promoting our kids to be officers anymore in services of the law because the media is promoting that officers are bad. My cousin's an officer, and he's a great man. He's not a bad person. They have a brotherhood. They all hang together. They meet together, but it's the same thing with the military. All military people don't come back from the war and have PTSD and get on drugs and do all that. It's unfortunate some do, but we have to recognize the difference between everything. In this world we live in today, there's good and there's evil, but that doesn't define who those people are and the group of people they are. Officers are needed in the world, the good ones.
Yeah, and it's funny because I've traveled all over the world. Like I said, my mom and dad grew up. My dad definitely from the Bronx, and it's my dad taught me from day one. There's no such thing as color.
It's not.
You know what I mean? And he grew up as a white guy, grew up in the Bronx.
Yeah.
And he'd be out there in the courts, playing basketball as a guy, and he'd say, listen, and we'd have all walks of life. The East Coast is more the Puerto Rican than it is the Hispanic out here. They'd be all at our house all the time for barbecue and whatever. It's like, and it's funny because back then, I tell this story, there's this one guy, I forgot his name. And this big guy, this black guy would come to the house and big barbecue, and man, the guy could do the best barbecue. But then too is if you was a little kid and you're doing something wrong, I don't care. You're getting a hand in the back of the head to reboot it. I don't care who it was. Who it was, whether it was a relative or not a relative. If it's an adult and you're messing around, and I was like, oh, my bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it wouldn't make a difference. And that's the thing that I think that's changing the society is just like I don't know. It's just we're so caught up in everything when it's like you do good, you do good. You do bad, you're gonna get the repercussions. No matter what you look like.
But even us talking about this, most people wouldn't agree because this is a touchy situation. But we can't say this is the Warrior podcast and we don't tell the whole battle of everything. See, growing up in Dos Palos, California, it was a majority white, but blacks and whites were separated in between the town.
Wow.
South Dos Palos and Uptown Dos Palos back in the day was separated. So when my family moved from Oklahoma, they all lived in South Dos Palos. My great-grandmother came from slavery, but the slave owners told my grandmother and grandfather where to go and chose to tell them where to buy land. So my grandmother and grandfather, great-grandfather, owned land. They owned 2 houses, but that was taught. So everything is not always bad.
Exactly.
And my grandmother and grandpa had 18 kids, imagine.
God bless them.
And she worked her butt off, and my grandfather was a pastor, and they made it through because they were taught how to farm and pick cotton. But guess what? Everybody's battle wouldn't be that way, but it's a touchy situation to talk about race. Racism is systematic for everything.
Right.
There's not just racism on blacks, majority. There's the races, but there's systematic racism, and we're taught that. Mm-hmm. See, in the African-American culture, this is hard for people to swallow. We have a lot of more racism probably to us sometimes, and Hispanics and people of color, but we're taught in our communities not to like other races also because we're taught that they don't like us. So it's like a revolving door around the world why we have this so much hatred and bigotry in the world because people don't realize that we're teaching each other, oh, they don't like you, so we don't like us. Look, you're a white male, I'm African, we get along well because it's our heart. Who am I as a person? There's no color attached. And if you want to get spiritual, God doesn't judge the color.
No.
He judges your heart.
Yep.
When we can get back to that, the evil is evil and good is good. But the world promotes bad stuff like that, I believe. So we all can be divided because when we're together, we can conquer the world.
Oh, and you look at it this way. If we touch a little bit on the spiritual aspect, and I'm definitely a spiritual guy. And it's like we're on Earth, man. It's a battle all the time.
Yeah.
And the more we can be against each other, the more I use the word Satan. You know what I mean? And I wake up in the morning sometimes and I'm feeling like crap or I want to be an a-hole. Yeah. If I'm like you said, a Walmart and somebody's treating me wrong, I'm going to try to do the same against them. And I say to myself, I'm going to get some T-shirts made or something with Doc Shim on the back. Yeah. Not today, Satan, not today.
That is true.
Because I'm going to battle it every day. And I put on that warrior outfit from a spiritual point of view and fight that every day in my own mind. But also, too, is that warrior mentality is to also protect. Yeah. Right? We think of a warrior mentality as one of those things, that mindset is to be offensive. Yeah. No, but we have an awesome place, say, for example, this gym, for example, because it's attached to our podcast and whatnot. But it's like anybody can come in no matter what. And you're going to be safe. Yeah. You're going to be safe because that warrior mentality, we're going to keep you safe. But also, too, is we're going to be offensive if on the offense. Yeah. If all of a sudden you're not treating our people right. Yeah. And we got all walks that come into this place.
I know, but I think by you having the flags and people identified, it demands authority and respect. Mm-hmm. The kids see the video, and the people that come here see the video, the Marines, the cop, the police department. It just demands respect. Mm-hmm. So people take that as a bad thing because you see military or you see officers. It demands respect. They earn the right to get respect, but respect is given also. Mm-hmm. But the thing about it, you talk about spiritual, it's hard. It's a touchy situation. People don't like to get into the spiritual part. I'm 100%. The reason I am the man I am today is God. Yeah. He kept me I've been shot before because I chose a different lifestyle. But God, that day, that guy shot me in my leg and he looked over my body. He told me, I'm like, he's about to kill me. But he didn't. Why? Because this purpose I have today, God needed me here to help these kids. And who else better to do it that been through every walk of life? And this is not a tough story or to be tough.
Oh, no.
I kept her from my mom for 10 years. I told her I fell and a pipe hit me in my leg. And I knew it would crush my mom and she knew that happened to me. Right. But at the same time, when we talk about the spiritual realm of it in the spiritual, the Christianity and all this is being attacked and everybody's trying to say, be quiet. How can you be quiet at a time like this?
Oh, yeah.
We need prayer. We need kids to know who God is or whoever they believe in, Jehovah's Witness. And that's another thing. Who are we to say whose religion is the best? Yes. Whoever walks a life, they have to believe who they believe. Yep. But if we realize that there's one God, who are we to talk? Who are we to say? Yeah. And for all the listeners that listen to this warrior, this is a part of the warrior mentality, I believe. Who says what a Christian is supposed to look like?
That's a good point. Yeah.
They put all these stipulations on what a Christian is supposed to look. You can't drink. They go in the Bible and say, well, he gave us wine, but he only made wine because the water was contaminated. But he also said you can do anything that doesn't alter your thinking and get you out of character. So which one is it? If a guy has a glass of wine at his house with his wife, that makes him a sinner?
Yeah.
We're all sinners, no matter what we look like. And don't the Bible say that we're filthy rags at our best? And does the Bible say...
So that doesn't mean you have to go in with a suit and tie to church every day either.
No, and that's the key.
Yeah.
I had to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
You know, I was in a church about to be a minister, and I was under a pastor. And I'll tell my story because I want people to hear it.
Yeah.
It's good that we're covering everything. The guy slept with my wife, the pastor, and he was my mentor. And I was with him every day. You know what I learned through that? I was serving the man.
Not God.
And we always want to hear the Bible that's good. But he said he's a jealous God. He don't want idol gods.
Yep.
But we serve men. We go to church for people to dress up and look at the person. But what about the person that comes in with Crocs and has sweats on and he doesn't have a suit on? He's searching for God, but they'll sit him in the back of the church or think he's not somebody. So one day, we have to realize about this Christianity thing or whatever. I don't think you have to go, this is my opinion, people that don't go to church every day, does that make them not a Christian?
Yeah, no.
Some of the most hurt happened to people. My most hurt in my life happened to me in the church.
In the church, right.
The church turned on me and believed the pastor. And they all quit talking to me. I would come around, they'll walk like I had the plague. But now, you know how they look at me when they see me? I'm so sorry.
Right.
Don't be sorry to me. This should have taught you a lesson too. So I use that. That's why I serve these kids, and that's why I put God. I'm not perfect, but I learned God during that time. I had to find God for myself.
And he comes around in different times of your life.
Yes,
like, so say, for example, he protected you before, like when you got shot.
Yeah.
I tell the story sometimes. I don't know if I've mentioned this on this podcast yet, but it kind of correlates with the religion aspect. Is when I was in the military before I went through the SEAL team training, I was in the Subic Bay, Philippines, and I got jumped. I got stabbed in the back.
Yeah.
Spent 10 days in a Navy hospital. Infection, blah blah blah. Everything healed fine. Went through SEAL team. Spent 4 years in the SEAL team. But ironically, in 2016, I'm in Florida with my son. Yeah. And he's getting ready to do, recruiting for college baseball. And right at the big park there, I had a stroke.
Oh, yeah.
I had a freaking stroke, right?
Yeah.
And it was like, man, what's going on? I didn't feel anything weird, but it just felt weird. Wound up going to the hospital. I got a 14-year-old, 15-year-old son. Doesn't even know where his dad is. Just me and him. You get out there, and lo and behold, they wound up putting 4 stents in my heart. Yeah. Because of the infection from 30 years ago, and blah, blah, blah. I wound up putting 4 stents in. Came home. The doctors are like in that military mentality. Got home about a week later from Florida in the hospital and come to work and the doctors, hey, man, you need to take a week off of work. It's not my mentality. You've known me for a little while now.
I seen you that day when you came back.
came back. And the funny thing is they said, take a week off. But ironically, that specific day, an older lady came into the office, right? And this is kind of one of those chiropractic things. Lady come in the office, she goes, doctor, I hear, that you do really good things. And I said, oh, thank you very much. And she said, I'm ready to commit suicide. And it was like, what? And I says, well, ma'am, let's see what we could do to help you out here. She goes, I've been to everybody. I got this back pain. I hear you could do wonders. And I says, well, ma'am, I've just, been doing this a long time. We'll see what we can do to help you out. Lo and behold, we do an examination. We get her adjusted. She gets off the table. Swear to God, she says, I'm healed. I go, okay, well, don't tell everybody that because then you're going to think I'm a quack. You know what I mean? I says, well, hopefully this helps you out. She goes, no, I swear to God that I feel 100% better. I was going to commit suicide because of my back pain. I'm like, well, ma'am, I hope this helps you out. Go home and ice. Let me see you in a week. To this day, lady never came back. Yeah. But if I didn't work that day, God only, no pun intended, God only knows what would happen to this lady.
You'll never know.
And you put on that outfit every day. You serve people. Myself as the chiropractor, that armor every day, and I get that mindset. I should have taken a week off for myself. I don't know why I came into work that day. Every day you're working with kids. Every single day you put on this armor, that mindset that I'm going to make sure that I'm going to affect a kid. I see these kids in here. I see the way you work with them. And for the audience to know, one of the things that I think is so heartwarming for myself is the fact that when you get done with the kids, everybody gets in a circle. You know what I mean? And then you just kind of say a prayer over the kids. Hey, listen, keep them motivated, respect your parents, do good in school. It's all this positive, stuff. And you're building these little warriors in with these guys. So when they eventually get to a point where they're going to, spread their wings and move on with their lives, hopefully society's going to be a little different, with these guys and gals.
Yeah, but that's why I tell them they're the chosen generation. And it's okay to tell them that. We got to speak positive into the kids' life. We can't hold back to tell them the positive that's in the world, that what the power they have. That even me, being in the business of helping these kids, the chosen, I'm attacked all the time by the bad spirits and stuff is trying to happen bad to me, my job, my car, all this stuff, because they don't need people like me and you in the world. They want people. See, the devil don't mess with people that's on his team.
No.
He messes with the ones that's trying to change the world.
Ooh, and I feel sometimes we get affected all day long, don't we?
So the hard part about it is that God says assassinate your flesh daily. He didn't say tomorrow, next week, next year. Why would he say that to you? Assassinate your flesh daily, because we don't fight against flesh and blood. We fight against the
Exactly.
spirit. So your flesh. But I'm saying, if you got to assassinate, if he told you to assassinate your flesh daily, he knew you would mess up.
Mm-hmm.
So he wants you to assassinate it daily, because we're going to mess up. We forget that sometimes. And you get attacked more when you're doing good.
Oh, yeah.
Than you are bad.
Yeah.
So that's the part. I always tell the analogy of when people go to church, they tell them to put their hands up and surrender. You know about surrendering, both sides of it.
Yeah.
But when you raise your hand and say, I surrender to God, you're saying you surrender whatever he wants to use you for as a vessel. You're just supposed to be the vessel. You don't know what that might require.
Yeah.
That might require saving a lady's life that want to commit suicide.
Right.
That might be a kid that say, I want to kill myself, coach. My mom and dad are fighting and she won't let me see my dad. I want to kill myself, coach.
And it's funny because, and we're going to finish up here in a couple seconds here on this. And I want to finish it with that, good spiritual point of view. We went down that direction and, I'm all good with it. I think this.
It's a touchy situation, but I think you have to.
And it's interesting because everybody has a calling, right? We're going to put on an armor, but what job are you going to have with that?
Yeah.
In your case, we have you here sitting today, and this job is to help people. I thought to myself, and this is going to, I'm not going to go on public, but it sounds weird, but I've always thought to my life, in my life, that I'm looking for a calling, right? You may say to yourself, oh, listen, I'm Coach Charles, and I'm going to sit on a soapbox. And I'm going to be in front of the White House, and I'm going to say, the world's going to end. You need to receive Jesus Christ in your life.
Yeah.
I was never one of those guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I have dyslexia. I have a hard time read, let alone read the Bible. Because, don't read the well as, all the accolades of becoming a doctor. It's because I worked hard at it, not because I was super smart.
Yeah.
But I always thought to myself, where's the calling? Where's the calling for yourself? And I would think to myself, when I was, and these stories come out, I was fortunate to be in the SEAL team. I was in for 4 years in the 70s and 80s. But when I was in Hell Week, everybody's seeing God. And believe me, you could talk to a bunch of team guys. There's guys that receive Jesus Christ into their life because they're like, oh my God, this is Hell Week.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, man, that's kind of unfair. I was the Irish Catholic guy. I grew up in New York. I was, the altar boy and all this type of good stuff. And I'm like, well, I should really kind of know what's going on here. I should be that Christian guy and have been saved and received Jesus Christ into your life, right?
Yeah.
And nothing. So then I had these guys go, man, Doc, you got to receive Jesus into your life. And I got down on my knees and God, nothing. Yeah. And these guys, what do you mean nothing? Nothing. It was like, I was always a good guy, for the most part. And those years later, I'm trying to figure out, you get different people coming into your lives, and I traveled all over the world. I've met the Hindus and the Mormons and the Buddhists and the Catholics and the Protestants and the Jehovah's Witness and everybody along the way. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm a pretty good guy. I think I'm a pretty good Christian guy. And I'm like, why is it not happening to me? And then what happened was I said to myself, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to, get down on my knees and I'm going to see Jesus Christ in my life. Nothing. I'm thinking you're supposed to see something.
Like a picture,
Yeah, like a picture, Then I went to Australia, with the chiropractic college and things like that. I go, I know what the reason was. Jesus really wasn't looking at me because I'm on the other side of the equator. So if I'm on this side of the equator, and honest to God, and that's going to be on tape forever, I swear to God, I got butt-ass naked, went into the ocean, full moon in Australia, and I said, I'm going to receive Jesus Christ in my life. I'm going to baptize my own rear end.
Yeah.
So I got in there, dunked my water, dunked in the ocean, and waves kept coming over here. Jesus, please come into my life. Nothing.
You thought it was nothing.
I thought it was until a couple of years back when that lady came into my life.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, oh my God, what I do every day is place hands on people. Now we're getting super religious part of this, but I put hands on people every day. I get to fix people every day. I get to have a gym like this where we're affecting young men and women.
That's your
I
ministry.
have a podcast that we're working on right now because we're putting on that armor. We're putting that mindset together to like you. I'm going to steal it from you from our podcast now on. It's like we're changing lives.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But that's your ministry. Well, I know we're coming to a close, but since I was a young kid, I was prophesied over and said, I'm going to be a pastor, right? I kept people, you're going to be a pastor. I go to churches, and when I was in the ministry, and they said, you're going to be a pastor. But you know what? Preaching it and is good, and I commend it, but my ministry is helping the youth through sports.
Exactly.
But does that make you any different than the pastor in the pulpit when you lay hands on people in chiropractic and make them feel better? You're the feel good. That's your spirit. And I'm saying that's what he using you for as your ministry. But how many conversations have you had when you were working in here with people that you met and they're telling you about their life? My wife is a nail tech. She owns her own nail company, nailsbymikaela, give her a tag. But when she's doing nails, her and my mom, she does hair, my mother-in-law, you know how many people she talked to in there and she's their therapist?
And they're making changes in a hair salon.
So people would think, oh, all she does is nails. How many people come in there and they sit there for 2 hours and get their nails done and they're dumping and they're talking and she meets some good people and she runs into a psychologist, she runs into a mayor, she runs into somebody. So that's another thing with the warrior mentality. You never know. Don't limit a person's job to them, their service. Yeah. Even a guy that washes your car.
Oh, yeah.
You should respect him. That's his ministry because he's the best at it.
Exactly.
Be the best you at whatever you do, and that's your ministry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly it. And that's why, I think this podcast, the more we get people on here, I think the more we're going to change some people's lives on all the audience watching the shows, but also too is the guests, the type of guests that I want on this show because I, travel all over and things like that I've met some crazy people that have some unbelievable stories that may make a little bit of a change to somebody's life. Like today, as we finish up here, we may have made a little bit of a change in people's lives. And that's all we're here for.
That's all we're a vessel, man.
Yeah.
And thank God that God gave you the heart to have this vessel to even take the time. I seen the setup and it was good. I came early to see the setup and what it takes into doing this. This ain't something you just woke up tomorrow and you can just do overnight. It took a lot of preparation. See, people always see the product, but they don't see the preparation and the people that work behind the scenes to make this happen. Yeah. This show is going to be a vessel I'm speaking into existence to change people and help people's life. And that's what's needed. There's a lot of podcasts out there, but is there where we can be real like this and talk about religion, officers, cops, and nobody's feeling offended? So I think this will be a good vessel to change people's lives. And some people might not like it. Some people will, but for if we just change one person's life, you did the right thing.
It's a good thing. So with that being said, I'd like to just thank everybody for checking out our podcast today. Coach Charles, we'll leave you some information on how to get a hold of him. If you want to just DM him or get him to talk to some of your kids along the way, because I'm telling you, he's been with this gym on the other side of this wall right here for some time now, and I can see a huge difference. I really wanted him on this podcast, and I was just amazed on the conversations we've had today. And you and I are going to have more conversations. We may, bring your butt back here again, sometime soon. So once again, across the table, I want to thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
We'll see everybody real soon. Thank you.
See you guys later. All right.
Good.